The attendees are coming in right now. Good evening, Los Gatos voters. Thank you for tuning in for the Chamber's much anticipated 2022 Town Council Candidate Forum. We are sure to have an informative and exciting night, led by two of my board members, our president and chairman of the board, Jim Foley. Jim is the CEO of Pennant Properties and most recently opened Montebello Market. He has served on many commissions and is always working to ensure that Los Gatos is a vibrant and great place to live, work, and play. Along with Jim this evening, we have Brian Bernasconi, a Serena real estate agent and a lifelong resident of Los Gatos. You may know him from his famous podcast, Podcats, or perhaps as a bass guitarist with the band The Complications. My name, for those of you that don't know me, is Catherine Summers. I've been the executive director here at the Los Gatos Chamber for almost 8 years, 8 great years because of all of you. Before we dive in, I want to thank our candidates. You inspire us. It is not easy to put yourself out there to run for public office these days. I've enjoyed getting to know each of you, and I admire and appreciate your care and concern for this town. A Chamber of Commerce has a unique address in a town. We sit at the corner next to the residents, the town government, and the business community. The Chamber is always trying to make sure that those 3 neighboring groups are in sync and are getting along. If they are, then we see stability, vibrancy, economic vitality, and sometimes magic. So tonight, sit back and listen and learn and know your vote. So now I'll turn it over to Jim. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's an exciting night tonight, as Catherine said. I'm Jim Foley, president of the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and I'll be your moderator for this evening's forum, which, by the way, is being recorded and will be available on the Chamber website, so you can binge watch it over and over and over as much as you can handle it. 2 years ago, during the last election, I was part of a committee that put together the candidate forum. I helped select the questions that informed the answer matrix published by the Chamber of Commerce. The event was moderated by Matt Mahood, the former executive director of the Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce. So I guess I got some big shoes to fill. We really wanted to hold this event in person, but the feedback was that we would get more engagement over a Zoom meeting. So we'll just see how that goes tonight. Yet again, this election is as critical as it's ever been. As the candidates we elect will face the challenge of certifying a general plan that currently faces a referendum, certifying a housing element, as well as overcoming the town's structural budget deficit. There are 3 town council seats open, each of them for a 4-year term. We need to make sure the right people are in place to properly navigate the challenges and set Los Gatos up for a bright future. We were hoping they would all be named Rob, but I guess we will have to settle for just 3. Now I'll turn it over to local realtor extraordinaire and podcast personality and my colleague on the Chamber Board of Directors, the one and only Brian Bernasconi, for the candidate introductions.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Bernasconi. Thank you, Jim. Well done. Thank you also, Catherine Summers, for the introduction. With us tonight, we have 5 candidates, as you mentioned, Jim. I'm going to mention them in alphabetical order and give a brief introduction for each. And then there's a 6th candidate who was unable to join us this evening, Reza Tavana, who was not joining us. He had a prior engagement and wasn't able to attend. Up first is Mary Badami. We asked Mary for a summary of her campaign, and she said that it was experience matters, promises kept. Some facts about Mary are: Mary was elected to town council, the Los Gatos Town Council, in 2020 and is honored to be of service. Mary owns an insurance agency in downtown Los Gatos, providing financial advice and risk management to families and businesses for over 37 years. Mary's first job was scooping ice cream. She is often located at Dolce Spazio now, deciding between cappuccino chip or strawberries and cream. And that's all of the facts I have right now for you, Mary. Thank you. Next, and we're going again in alphabetical order. Next up is Rob Moore. Rob's slogan that he gave to us was "More for Los Gatos." You'll see those on his yard signs. Rob was born and raised in Los Gatos. He's lived in 3 different houses, 3 different homes here, all in different parts of town. As a council member, he would be excited to represent areas of town often left out, like East Los Gatos and Rinconada, in addition to our lovely downtown and other parts of West Los Gatos. He took a leading role in organizing the Los Gatos United Against Hate March. He also spoke to the crowd that day to call for kindness and decency. On the town council, he would continue to continue the progress, that we made during this movement. If you couldn't already tell from his lawn signs, Rob is an avid biker. He also loves gardening, perhaps to a fault, as the cashiers at Ace Hardware would attest to. That's Rob Moore. Moving on, we've got Rob Rennie, one of the 3 Robs. Rob Rennie, his slogan is integrity, experience, and proven leadership. Rob says, "I will be the only council member with more than 2 years of experience. I've been the mayor, and I have the experience in government across the country and the network to bring resources to Los Gatos. My 2 biggest accomplishments as a Los Gatos council member are the founding SVCE, buying 100% carbon-free energy, and reviving the downtown district. I spent my first paycheck," Rob says, "after grad school on a backpacking trip with the Sierra Club above the Arctic Circle in the Philip Smith Mountains in the state of Alaska. We were dropped in the middle of nowhere by a float plane, 3 at a time, and taken out 2 weeks later by a plane landing on the tundra. We saw no sign of another human being the whole time." Again, that's Rob Rennie. Margaret Smith, Margaret, you're there? There you are. Her slogan was "Bringing Voices Together." Margaret was the owner of Domus, which many of us will remember, the beloved retail store that anchored our downtown for decades and was one of the top 10 sales tax generators for the town of Los Gatos. Margaret is the past chair of the Planning Commission and has also served as on a half dozen other town committees and boards. Margaret is a past president of the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce, past national president of the National Association of Women Business Owners, past Los Gatos Business Person of the Year recipient, and is listed in the Women's Hall of Fame. That is Margaret Smith. And lastly, we've got the 3rd Rob, Rob Stump. Rob's slogan is "Elevating Public Safety and Stewardship." Rob says, "I've lived in Los Gatos for 50 years. My family moved to Los Gatos in 1924. I have served in CEO executive positions for for-profit companies for almost 30 years. My first job during high school was working as a grocery clerk at Frank's Los Gatos Market on North Santa Cruz Avenue," which has been gone a while, huh? And that's all I've got here for Rob Stump. So that's everybody. They've all been introduced. I think we go on back to you then, Jim, yes?
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, great. Well done. And we got a little glimpse into everybody there. So just to quickly go over some housekeeping, I'm going to go through the rules that the candidates have received before the start of the forum. Candidates will be on mute when not speaking and observe the rules of decorum. The questions were selected by a panel comprised of the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce Executive Director and Board of Directors, and audience questions submitted at the time of registration were reviewed for relevancy and redundancy. Questions will be asked in a rolling alphabetical order. Please ask me if you'd like anything repeated. The Q&A is going to be broken into two sections. First, there's a formal round with questions that we described a moment ago, and then there's a lightning round of questions after that. Candidates will have up to 2 minutes to respond during the formal round and a variable response time, just depending on the lightning round and the questions that are included. The timer will be visible to the candidates. As the timer approaches 0, please finish up your current sentence or thought. I will monitor the timer and advise when your time has expired. I will thank the speaking candidate before recognizing the next candidate. Following the Q&A section, each candidate will be given 1 minute for a closing statement. And then at that time, those statements are going to go in reverse alphabetical order, and there will also be a timer on the screen for that. So with all that out of the way, we'll get started with the first question for candidate Mary Badami. She goes first for this one. Ms. Badami, a referendum has been filed to re-examine the land use and community design elements of the newly approved 2040 general plan, because some community members believe the upzoning of some of the residential districts is largely unnecessary and overreaching compared to the state mandated housing requirements. If elected, what is your plan as a council member to finalize a general plan with revisions to those two elements as soon as possible?
Thank you. And first off, I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event and all the attendees for taking the time out to listen to us candidates. With that, as an elected council member, I voted against the land use element of the 2040 general plan. My vote was consistent in preserving the character of our town. I do not support upzoning 2,500 acres of land or even 750 acres of land when only 43 acres are needed to meet our RHNA allocation. I support targeted areas for growth, areas that make sense, that being in proximity to employment, services, transit corridors, and walkability. If re-elected, I will continue to apply common sense and good governance. Good governance considers fiscal impacts and the feasibility of developing affordable housing for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Badami. Okay, so to continue in order, thoughts on this question for Mr. Moore.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Thank you to everyone at the Chamber of Commerce and everyone who's here tonight. I just appreciate all your time. This is a super important question. This will be one of the first major issues a new town council member will have to tackle. So I think first, in order to move forward, we need to have the same understanding of the facts. And unfortunately, I don't believe that's where the community stands right now. When I was approached at the grocery store and encouraged to sign this petition, the signature gatherer's line to me was, do you support building tens of thousands of new homes in Los Gatos in the next 5 years? Of course, I don't want that. No one wants that, but that is simply not what the general plan does. And I worry this is what many members believed when signing the referendum. After talking further with the signature gatherer, I learned that he was being paid $10 a signature and really didn't know much about the actual impact of the referendum. So I fear this has created some misinformation in our community. With all that being said, I believe we need to be solutions oriented, and I know we can find a compromise between all stakeholders. At Tuesday's town council meeting, the town council intelligently and unanimously implemented a stopgap measure that takes us back to the 2020 land use element and community design element. The first thing that needs to be done, and something a new town council member may have to jump headfirst into, is to start making amendments to our general plan to ensure our housing element can move forward. All of us on the Housing Element Advisory Board, which I serve on, have been working hard to get this document ready for approval, and we need to ensure that this referendum does not interfere with it passing through the State Housing Department. We need to elect town council members who know this process inside and out, and I believe I am that person. I then believe we need to begin community conversations about what parts of those two elements we'd like to keep and what parts need to go. The town solicited significant feedback during the general plan process, so I believe we can incorporate all of that into this process. I believe we should be prioritizing housing along transit corridors in areas of town that possess adequate infrastructure capacity, and that we should not encourage sprawl into our neighborhoods. I think this is the view many folks in town take with housing. I feel that with some amendments, we can get to a place where folks in town are comfortable with this new document, and I'm excited to try to get there together.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Same question, Mr. Rennie.
Thank you, moderator. Some good answers so far. I wanted to start off, you're asking how do you facilitate a compromise? And so I wanted to mention a little bit about the process that goes on. In order to change the general plan elements that have been referendum, you're asking for a compromise. We send it back through a public process, and this has been through a very rigorous public process with our advisory committee, and then to our planning commission, and then it finally came to council. So to do changes, we would send it back through the public process again, collecting lots of input. And during that time, you're going to get that's where more maybe of that compromise is going to come in, where different citizens with different opinions are going to be talking about what they desire. And hopefully we will get something close to a final product that comes to council. That's when we as council, then usually what we try to do is listen to all this input that we've gotten, and maybe we adjust it a little bit. But we typically don't just throw out the input we got. The general plan that came to us, we did adjust some from, again, that long process that came before us. I did have many discussions with the people that have done the referendum, and their biggest number one thing they said to me is they didn't want the density doubled of our LDR. Those are the low density residential. And I actually made the motion that approved the general plan that went forward, and I made sure that we did not double the density. As some of the good ideas already mentioned, I was trying to target areas where there would be less effect on infrastructure. Unfortunately, a little more got added in than I thought was needed in order to get that final vote. That's kind of the process that's going to happen again when it comes back. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. Okay, same question again. Your thoughts on it, Ms. Smith?
Yes, thank you very much. When I first read the question, I realized that my problem with the question was that we have two sitting council members who can tell you what they will do. And then there's three of us who can only speculate or hypothesize what we will do, because it'll be another 3 months before we're going to be asked to take any vote. However, in this situation, I'd like to point out for myself, I feel that it really highlights my proven skills, which are to listen to all sides of a question. In this particular situation, we have so many opinions out there, and the facts have somehow been obfuscated. And of course, Mr. Moore mentioned the gathering of the signatures. There was misinformation in that. But more importantly, I want the public to realize that we also have mandates from the state that are coming down in addition to these two mandates. There was, on September 29th, the governor signed 2 more bills, AB 2011 and SB 6, which is going to increase what cities or towns our size have to do in terms of development. So we have to be really alert in 3 months' time. When I'm asked to make a vote on the council, I know that I'm going to vote for what is better for the town. And there's no one that I see on this screen or on the current council that I know I can't work with and work with successfully for the betterment of the town.
Okay, great. Thank you for your answer. Okay, last up to bat here on this one is Mr. Stone. You're on mute.
First, the referendum, as everyone knows, does not block the 2040 general plan. It really calls the question on the land use and community design elements. Should they be rescinded or should they be put on the ballot for the voters to decide? So how did we get here? As Mayor Rennie mentioned, that back on June 30th, the town council on a 3-2 vote adopted the 24 general plan, and it upzoned and increased housing density on 750 acres. Not the whole town, but 750 acres. This was 15 times more than what was required to meet the state mandate. Only 43 acres require planning and zoning attention. The changes approved by the council also enables development of 12,000 additional housing units. That's one of the big areas of concern. As a result of this signature drive, and the town did act on Tuesday night to revert back to the 2020 general plan. So what that means, there's no delays for day-to-day planning and development. Also, this does not delay work on the housing element. But now, as we've heard, the council must decide to rescind the 2 elements in question, or put the question to the voters in a special election, or wait until the general election in November of 2024. So first, if a decision has not been made prior to seating the next council, the new council, and this is my opinion, should rescind the 2 elements in question and revert to the 2020 general plan. Delays can be avoided by simply amending the land use element in the 2020 general plan to include planning and zoning for those 43 identified acres in the housing element. Business goes on as usual. Then in January, of course, we must submit our housing plan that will meet the state mandate of 1,993 housing units. The council can better represent the entire community by taking this action. We can do better, and together we can preserve the charm and character of Los Gatos. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stump. Thanks to all of you. Those are all well thought out answers, and it's a really important issue, and it's important to the community, important to the chamber. There's a lot of important things, as we mentioned, kind of in the preamble here, and we'll be really excited to see, who gets elected and who's going to have to face these challenges and bring everybody together on the issue. So moving on to the next question. This one, we're going to start with candidate Rob Moore. Mr. Moore, every day the chamber hears from our businesses, schools, town staff, and the police department that hiring and retaining staff is a significant issue, largely because of the local cost of living and housing. What goals, policies, incentives, or obligations could be added to the recently approved general plan and/or the yet to be approved housing element to ensure a meaningful amount of affordable housing will be developed?
Thanks for the question. So through currently serving on the Housing Element Advisory Board, I've been really involved in this conversation for a while. Our town needs a variety of housing types at a variety of price points for the variety of residents who call Los Gatos home and would like to call Los Gatos home. So this means both traditional below market rate housing and also naturally affordable housing. To make this distinction, I live in a fourplex, that's where I am now, and I pay a very reasonable monthly rent. While this is not technically affordable housing, it is housing that is affordable. And it's affordable to normal working people, and we should be encouraging that throughout town. Through the housing element process, I added language in our draft housing element to encourage the preservation of current naturally affordable housing stocks, such as smaller cottages, duplexes, townhomes. 40 years ago, people were able to buy starter homes in Los Gatos to break into the housing market, and now starter homes really don't exist. And so last night I was on Zillow, and of the 100 or so homes that are on the market right now, 3 are for sale in less than $1 million. So we really don't have anything for middle income people. To get into specifics, I think building types like mixed use can eliminate many of the concerns that accompany development, like traffic, while still creating new affordable housing. The general plan prioritizes new development in 8 key community place districts. And so these are areas of Los Gatos that are located along major transit corridors that are really currently underutilized. I'm very supportive of this strategy to ensure we are building housing in areas of town that are adequate in terms of infrastructure and traffic and all of that. So we need to, I think, create better relationships with nonprofit housing developers. I worked professionally in affordable housing, and about a year ago, I talked with a local employee at Habitat for Humanity about the Didos Lane project. For context, there were a dozen affordable housing units proposed to be built here, and they were never built. This is because the town dragged Habitat for Humanity through the mud, and now Habitat for Humanity has no intentions of coming back to Los Gatos. So I think that we need people on the council who have these relationships and will prioritize the construction of affordable housing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Next is same question for Mr. Rennie.
Thank you, moderator. I actually like a lot of what Mr. Moore said. There is a distinction between income restricted affordable and what we would say is moderate income, but is more affordable to, you listed, you know, teachers and police and staff at work and so forth. And the challenge with affordable income restricted housing is if a teacher's married and their spouse has a job, they're unlikely to be able to qualify for any level of income restricted. We've actually done that with the site that was mentioned where we decided not to go with Habitat for Humanity, instead went with somebody who was building housing, trying to focus on teacher housing. The concern there is, are we, you know, it's going to be maybe a single teacher that's starting off that's actually going to be able to stay under that income cap. So what's really important is the other part of actually what Mr. Moore talked about is getting more housing that's market rate affordable. And I like his idea of making sure we preserve the naturally occurring affordable. And that's typically stuff that's been built a long time ago. And anything new you build, they're always going to want premium dollars for it. So in order to get more new, we're going to have to do something that's more dense because land is so expensive. It's going to have to be more dense. It may not be, you know, as fancy, may not even be a great place to raise a family. And then, you know, you start off in these types of homes and later on you can move into, you know, we've got lots of single family neighborhoods as you progress in your career and hopefully save up money to move in that direction. I'm trying to think what else I was going to. On the affordable, the income restricted also, it's not just about relationships, and financing is extremely complex, and it really starts with land. And the best way to do that is to have a large project building something else that donates the land. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. Okay, Ms. Smith, same topic.
Yes, thank you for the question. Affordable housing to me is certainly not isolated to Los Gatos. Certainly our neighboring communities like Campbell and Cupertino are also facing the same challenges we are with affordable housing. Secondly, though, I want to be clear about one thing, and that is Los Gatos is not in the development business. The town of Los Gatos is not a developer. So the first thing we need to do to have affordable housing is to attract developers that want to come in to do it. And while it saddens me to hear about Habitat for Humanity, I believe that a new era can dawn and we can encourage them to return to Los Gatos, as well as we have Eden Housing, etc. So I want to make clear, though, that the town of Los Gatos makes the elements. However, we do need the developers to show up to want to develop the land, to develop the affordable housing. Our policies on permitting, I've certainly talked to one of the low income developers, and they would like to see our process for permitting smoothed out somewhat and perhaps not be as complicated as it is. I take that as a communication issue. And I think we also have to be aware that, again, the state is mandating issues coming down through, again, I just mentioned SB 6 and AB 2011. There are mandates that are being put on development, including affordable housing, that may appear after we submit our housing elements. So we have to be flexible in order to attract the kind of housing that we want here. And again, we have special neighborhoods. Yes, transit corridors are important. We know that. And so what we need to do is be cooperative and get this job done. Let me put it that way. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Smith. And Mr. Stump.
I think we can find that the word affordable is a very challenging word because it can mean different things to different people. And one of the things I'm going to focus in on is part of the state mandate. We have 847 below market rate housing units that we're charged with developing as part of our plan. Again, we don't develop them. We have to rely on developers to do that work for us. So let me just give kind of a common definition. When I take a look at below market rate housing, what does that mean? Again, as Mayor Rennie referred to, their income guidelines, right? So if you were looking at affordable below market rate housing, we're going to be speaking about family of four with household income below $135,000. What do we need to do to make that a reality in Los Gatos? As Ms. Smith talked about, we really need leadership from the council. First, the council needs to engage below market rate developers so that we can achieve the right development in Los Gatos, as we've talked about the housing for those folks like teachers, police officers, and so forth. We also need to be talking to our state representatives to address the affordability gap. That's not a problem just in Los Gatos, but it's a big problem in Los Gatos for the 847 units. We've got an affordability gap that will be more than $200 million on those 847 affordable units. Where will that money come from? It's a good question. We need to go out and find ways to close this gap. The town is neither a land bank, as we know, nor a financier, but we should play the roles of advocate and facilitator. Thirdly, I would strongly suggest that we consider establishing a Blue Ribbon Commission in Los Gatos to address the affordability challenge for Los Gatos. Our land use policy and our funding strategy has got to work together. And at this moment, we don't have a solution for bridging this gap. So affordable housing is a challenge in Los Gatos, undoubtedly, due to our land costs, our building costs in general, but we can make affordable housing a reality. But it's going to take leadership from the town and the members of the community. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stump. And lastly, same topic, same question for Ms. Badami.
Affordable housing is qualified by occupational pay scale. Building affordable housing for lower income households is challenging, as you heard from the other candidates. And that's due to the cost of land and cost to develop in Los Gatos. We cannot fix pay scales and we cannot help developer costs, but we can work on developer agreements, partnerships with nonprofits, subsidized housing, and foundations to identify resources to create affordable housing. We all want housing for our children, our teachers, our firemen, our police. Policies I support going forward is small unit housing, and preferably 1,000 square feet or less. That would increase the affordability just due to the size of the units. I also support mixed uses for a diverse housing mix. As a planning commissioner for 7 years and council member for 2 years, I have the experience necessary in land use to balance housing needs for the benefit of our community.
Great, thank you for your answer. It's we heard a lot there. There was definitely some thoughtful answers from all of you. It's certainly a really important issue, related a little bit to the first question, but I know it's a big challenge when you've got all the parties involved. You've got the people that live here, the people that want to live here, the community, the role that the town and the elected officials play, private landowners, developers, and everyone else. So we heard some things that were action-based and other things that were more theoretical, but hopefully whoever gets elected to the council can take some action and take it fast, because it's clearly something on everyone's mind and something that you've all given a lot of thought to. Okay, so question 3 here, sort of at the midway point of the first part of the Q&A. We'll go to question number 3, and the first up for this question will be candidate Rob Rennie. So, Mr. Rennie, Los Gatos Boulevard and the second phase of the North 40 are 2 areas with significant opportunities for growth and new businesses. What is your vision to ensure Los Gatos is attractive and appealing for first-class businesses to choose to locate here? Do you see any hurdles that prevent this from happening today that could be changed in order to accomplish this?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would say I've done it before and I can do it again. When I was mayor in 2018, I made it a focus that we needed to revitalize our downtown. Even before that, I'd had lots of discussions with our business community that less and less people were coming to Los Gatos. We were losing out to Campbell, we were losing out to Willow Glen, and generally the message was Los Gatos not really open for business. So over several years, we listened, we worked on removing roadblocks, we streamlined permitting, we got rid of ordinances that didn't make sense anymore. Los Gatos used to be a crazy town, and we had made a lot of things. We had rules that said no more bars in Los Gatos, and I think we had 2 bars or 3 bars. And we removed that, and now you see nice places to go, you know, like Out of the Barrel and so forth. So I would do the same kinds of things. You know, I've been very focused on the downtown, and I think, you know, if you go and look at the result coming out of the pandemic, we are the place to go again. I would say that's one of my biggest accomplishments, being on council, is working through that. I would, again, you know, now start talking to our business community with the boulevard in mind, and what are the roadblocks there. Let me go talk to the people and understand the roadblocks and start trying to remove those. I do see a lot of properties changing hands. You know, so I think there's going to be a lot of changes there. We need to think about aesthetics. Our housing element is planning to try to put a lot of the housing mixed in there also. So there is going to be quite a bit of change there, as you know, Whole Foods is planning to move where the empty dealership is. What's going to happen to that small area that's lost both of its big anchors? So I think there's lots of change coming. I don't have the answers yet, but I know how to get the answers. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. Okay, same question for Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you. Well, as an experienced retailer in the downtown area, I can tell you that I have a lot of ideas on what we can do to continue the vitality and actually enhance all of our commercial centers. I believe, first of all, we need to be proactive in bringing in what you've identified in this question as first-class businesses. I have suggested that we look at medical device company at the now available Netflix space. I've suggested, and I just threw this out, Penzi Spices up in Menlo Park, convincing them to open a second location here. We need to be looking for interesting and vital businesses, not just for our downtown, but in all of our commercial centers. We know that phase 2 is going to bring retailing to the North 40. You know, what's going to go in there? I think that the council needs to be proactive in seeking out these businesses and work jointly with the business community to find these businesses and lure them to us, because we know we can be the place to be. I also would like to see some enhancement of our economic vitality department. I think maybe it would help to have some strengthening of it. And also going with my theme of bringing voices together and listening. I'd like to, as a council member, be able to interview businesses that have relocated here recently and ask them what brought them to Los Gatos, because I think that can give us information that will be very critical as we work ahead. So we need to work closely with the chamber. We need to make what I call field trips to other communities and see what businesses are there and what businesses we can lure to us. And the other thing I just thought about the other day, the Domus tagline was a very fun place to shop. And so I'm going to suggest to the chamber that maybe the tagline for Los Gatos is a very fun place. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for your answer. Okay, next we have Mr. Stump.
Thanks, Jim. I think we have to answer the question, and the other candidates, Mayor Rennie and Ms. Smith, have kind of touched on this. How do we ensure Los Gatos is a desirable place for businesses to locate? I really think there are 3 things that we should be doing. Obviously, I don't think anybody would argue we need to be business friendly, and that's from planning and development to services. The town council and senior staff need to ensure that it's easy to do business in Los Gatos. Barriers that create any delays have got to be removed, as Mayor Rennie talked about. You know, the recent failure of Hero Ranch Kitchen located in Los Gatos is something that cannot be repeated. It needs to be an all hands on deck to ensure that businesses that are planning to locate in Los Gatos get support and services quickly and cost effectively. We also need, as we've heard, to drive business vitality. We can't be on the sidelines. We need to work together to fill vacant storefronts throughout Los Gatos. We need to bring building owners, the chamber, council members, the town's economic vitality manager together with a focus on increasing vibrancy of the business community. You heard Mayor Rennie speak of the vacancies that are now going to be at Cornerstone, with Rite Aid leaving and Whole Foods soon to be leaving. We need to be ready to support and assist property owners in attracting businesses and assisting and filling those spaces. Yes, I'm going to go there. Traffic congestion. You don't shop in a traffic jam. And for the downtown and even locations outside of the downtown, Saturday should be the busiest day for retail businesses. During the beach season, our retail businesses continue to be impacted significantly due to that severe traffic congestion. We can't accept this is status quo for our business community, nor the potential public safety risk to wildfire and other emergency response. We must revisit this issue and develop short-term and mid to long-term solutions. So Los Gatos is an attractive and appealing place to do business. Let's address these issues. It will make a difference.
Great, thank you, Mr. Stump. And same question for Ms. Badami.
As a business owner in the downtown for several years, I'm very familiar with economic vitality and the business closures with vacant storefronts. You asked about vision for the North 40 and the Los Gatos Boulevard. Well, I'm going to see a balance of residential and commercial uses, a vibrant mix of retail, restaurant, office, and services. And those are things that have a symbiotic relationship even within our downtown. If we want first-class businesses, we need to make it appealing. And that means preserving the unique qualities of our town. Hurdles, yes, we have hurdles. And candidate Stump mentioned the Hero Ranch Kitchen. That could have been a very viable major downtown anchor. And that was disappointing. I got a call to help as a council member. I tried to step in to no avail. The permitting process needs to be streamlined, no doubt. It needs to be easier to navigate online. And we need to consider a roundtable of department heads in resolving special circumstances, or maybe just everyday circumstances, to make it easy for any and all businesses that want to come to Los Gatos. So let's get the word out. Los Gatos wants first-class businesses. Let's make it happen.
Thank you, Ms. Badami. And last on this question is Mr. Moore.
Thank you. So as a former board member of the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce, I believe our local business community is a huge part of what makes our town such a lovely place to be. When talking about growing the town, I believe that we need to talk both about supporting our current businesses and also encouraging future businesses. So when it comes to the North 40, many folks in town feel they were sold a bill of goods. I spend a lot of time knocking on doors and people generally do not like the North 40. A lot of complaints about the North 40 are about the architecture and the traffic, but a lot of folks are also disappointed they didn't get more new businesses in the first phase. I agree with the premise of this question that Los Gatos Boulevard and the North 40 Phase 2 are two major opportunities, and we need to handle these more thoughtfully than the town dealt with the first phase of the North 40. What people do like about these sorts of mixed use developments and you know, all these sorts of strip malls and all these things is the greater walkability and access to amenities in the areas where businesses can thrive. Putting housing above these businesses not only gets more people to the businesses, but it also decreases traffic and vehicle miles traveled and all these things that we think are important. Moving forward, I think that we can create spaces that become destinations rather than detriments, which is how a lot of people see the North 40. The major hurdle that the town encountered when building the North 40 was the breakdown of the relationship and negotiations between the town and the developer. The developer ended up suing the town and winning, so Los Gatos ended up having not as much to say as we should have in the final product. As the town council, we have to plan for a development that is charming and vibrant, but also economically realistic. There's so many great new businesses we should be making an active effort to recruit, especially in the non-downtown areas of town that I think are often forgotten about. I want to bring new vibrancy to the entire business community of Los Gatos. To me, vibrancy is about the energy of the town. It's the potential great night out with family or friends that get you off the couch when you can, go spend time in our amazing downtown. And so I think to further facilitate an atmosphere of vibrancy in Los Gatos, we do need younger people at the table helping create that environment.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Okay, we're getting through it. Very good answers. Lots of opportunity on the north side of town, and everybody's been working hard on it for a long time, and it's coming soon. So I'm glad we're all attentive to that. Okay, question number 4. We'll start this time with candidate Margaret Smith. Ms. Smith, the town is facing a structural budget deficit. Several suggestions to help balance the budget are to focus on the recovery of the transient occupancy tax post-pandemic, approval of the business license modernization, which includes a fee increase, a potential future parcel tax, and simply increasing the volume of sales in town to capture additional sales tax revenue. Visitors and residents alike are vital contributors to these revenue sources. What role does the town council play in promoting and investing in Los Gatos as a tourist destination that would in turn bolster these revenue sources?
Thank you for that question, and it's one that I feel intimately familiar with. So we are talking about revenue generation that can balance our budget or help balance our budget. And of course, the retail community plays a very important part in this. And I want to make sure that we understand that the town council can be spokespeople for our business community as well. So I'd like to see a real combination. I talked about making field trips, council members going with people from the chamber and visiting prospective businesses, but also we have to bring our commercial centers together. I want to digress for one moment and say something about Saturday business and traffic, if I could. When I owned Domus, Saturdays was a booming day and we still had beach traffic. And so we had a reason, we gave visitors a reason to stop in town when they were stuck in traffic. They shopped, they went to eat, they strolled, and then they got back in their car and continued on to Santa Cruz. I'd like to see that come back again. And we will do that if we have businesses that can attract people who are willing to linger for a couple of hours. But in the meantime, let me talk about bringing our commercial centers together. I have an idea of a trolley service that can begin, it could begin at North 40, it could begin downtown, but, and I talked about this with you, Mr. Foley, a long time ago. If we had an open air trolley that visited our commercial centers on a, let's say, an hourly basis, someone who lives out near the North 40 or lives on Los Gatos Boulevard or near there could walk and hop on that open air trolley, go downtown, get a boba, go to the movies, maybe grab some lunch, get back on a trolley and go back home. I think this would be a way we can take cars off the road, but also give people a sense of community that they can go anywhere that they want to go in our commercial centers. If we bring them together, we're going to increase revenues. I'm sure of it. And also we're post-pandemic, so we're going to be looking at increases in revenue for certain.
Okay, thank you for that answer. So next in line for question 4 is Mr. Stump.
Thanks, Jim. The town definitely has a role in voting, both investing in Los Gatos as a tourist destination. Of course, it's made recent investments in the business community, including the parklets that allow for expanded dining areas, which certainly been positive for those businesses. The town also provides funding to the chamber for destination marketing. And can this funding be increased? Probably not likely in the short term, but going forward, the town and the chamber together need to further engage the business community, as Ms. Smith said, to determine how we can partner more closely to leverage what still may be somewhat limited resources, maybe although recovering. Until the town really has a detailed plan to address the structural deficit that led into this question, spending will continue to be focused first and foremost on safety and health for our community. Speaking of a plan to address the deficit, we need to begin with these 2 action items. Staff needs to be directed to work with the Finance Commission to identify opportunities for cost reduction while maintaining service levels. Staff also needs to be directed to assess the possibility, as we've heard, of increasing maybe sales tax, perhaps transient occupancy tax, et cetera. Why? Because we need to understand our options. I'm not a tax and spend guy, but we need to understand our options. And then from a revenue standpoint, as we've heard, we should pursue revenue sources that make good government sense, including supporting the passage of the updated business license tax in November, reviewing our fees and fines potentially for increases, albeit that would be somewhat incremental, and also pursuing collection of our fair share of sales tax related to online sales that have taken sales away. Discretionary funding is going to be difficult to come by in the short term. Regardless, the town and the chamber should work together to identify and explore all options to promote and invest in Los Gatos as a tourist destination for the benefit of our businesses and the town.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stump. Your thoughts, Ms. Badami?
Thank you. I think Ms. Smith needs to bring back Domus based on her comments. The town council considers economic vitality a strategic priority. As council member, I have voted to support destination marketing, outdoor dining and parklets, and Thursday promenades. Our 2040 general plan describes Los Gatos as a destination for visitors, highlighting our historic downtown setting. Destination marketing has the potential to bolster our transient occupancy tax, luring weekend events such as weddings. It's a perfect setting for a weekend wedding that would complement our restaurants, retail, shopping, and our wineries. Council does play a role. We have played a role, keeping in mind the other strategic priority of prudent financial management and balancing a budget.
Thank you. Next up on the question is Mr. Moore.
Thank you. I feel that the town plays a huge role in making Los Gatos an attractive community to vacation and travel to. As anyone who spent much time in Los Gatos knows well, our town is the best. It's our role as leaders to act as ambassadors and to help show people in other communities why Los Gatos is so special. Los Gatos has some truly world-class amenities. Our downtown is filled with amazing restaurants, shopping, places to drink wine and beer, and I think much, much more than that. Our hillsides have spectacular hiking and biking and equestrian trails. We have first-rate hotels, and we have exciting destination events throughout the year. I would like to see the town do more to expand these events and potentially turn functions like the Christmas parade or the summer promenades into a multi-day event. This would encourage more people to stay the night in our local hotels and also to spend more time shopping and dining, not only in our downtown, but throughout the whole town. This has the potential to generate a lot of revenue, both for the town and for the local businesses. While out knocking on doors, one of the things I get some of the most positive feedback from is the summer promenades. People love the summer promenades. Anything we can do to create more of these community-centered outdoor events is a win in my book. So at the same time, it's important to remember that Los Gatos is an obligation to our residents above all others. And so we need to make sure that we market Los Gatos, as we market Los Gatos as a tourist destination, we're also ensuring that folks in town are happy with whatever we're pursuing. So serious issues like traffic can be exacerbated by major events, and the town needs to take steps to ensure Los Gatos residents can still easily move throughout the town. Overall, I'd like to see the town council and town staff partner more regularly with the Chamber of Commerce, among other groups, to encourage more downtown and economic vitality all throughout the town.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. And finally, Mr. Rennie, your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I guess the disadvantage of going last is all these new ideas just came into my head. But I think there's two parts that we're actually asking about here. There's supporting the businesses with the destination marketing, and then there's trying to help our structural deficit. The council has put in money in, given the chamber money to do destination marketing, and I agree with continuing to partner with the chamber. I think they really need to take the lead on destination marketing, but continue to support and partner with them and provide funds when we can. As you know, our budget's getting tighter. We are down $500,000 to $1 million from our TOT taxes. That's the tax you get from hotels. But our hotels are decently full. So they are bringing people to town. I walk downtown a lot. I can tell you there's people that are not from Los Gatos in town. The problem is business travel is down and the hotels in the region are not full. So the prices are all down. The hotels are all getting about half what they used to get. So that hurts our tax level. The other part I want to focus on a little bit too is it's not just the destination marketing, but it's looking for businesses that are going to generate revenue. I think you're hearing all of these candidates are very business focused and want Los Gatos to be a successful business. Our current council is decently so. There's been councils in the past that have not been. We lost some, important revenue generators like the car dealerships. That industry changed, but we were not a very welcoming town when they started leaving, coming from the council. So it's more than just destination marketing. It's focusing also on businesses that are going to bring in the revenue and making them welcome. We kind of talked about that in our previous questions, but I think it goes back to, if you really want to help the structural deficit, it's going to be more than just bringing more people into town to shop. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of good thoughts from everyone there, and a lot of different kind of moving parts to distinguish between, but we do have a good foundation in town. I feel personally like things have improved over time. I think there's a long way to go, but I think we're on the right trajectory, and I don't envy your challenges to sit there and try to figure out, how we're going to balance the budget and where the priorities are, and take risk on something like kind of continuing to improve opportunities for businesses, hoping that we get visitors and increase tax revenue. It's going to be a big challenge, and that's why we're here tonight, to talk about everybody's thoughts about it. So, okay, with that, we're going to get the last question in this portion of it, and then we'll move on. So the last question, number 5, we'll start with candidate Rob Stump. Mr. Stump, in recent times, Los Gatos has been a venue for protests, both in the streets and in town council chambers, surrounding diversity and equality. Do you believe Los Gatos needs to improve its reputation as a welcoming community? And if so, how?
When I reviewed the community survey that had been conducted by the town earlier this year, I was actually encouraged by the ratings. Example, 93 to 97% rate Los Gatos from good to excellent as a place to live and to raise children. 81% rate Los Gatos from good to excellent as a place where I feel welcome. 3% rated as below average, 1% rated as poor. But I would just say I believe most of us want to see improvement. We value the quality of life. So how do we improve our reputation as a welcoming community? And you've heard some of these things spoken about, but we're doing many things that offer our community opportunities to come together. Music in the Park, Jazz on the Plaza, seniors programs, the chamber promenades, the farmers market, and so on. We have community gatherings and programs that really should appeal to everyone. But what really makes you feel welcome? In my opinion, it's the neighborhood that you live in. It's personal relationships. So we really need to encourage neighborhoods to gather. It's also about personal responsibility. Each of us must assume personal responsibility for being welcoming and reaching out to our neighbors. And I've personally experienced this over the past couple of months while attending neighborhood events. In engaged neighborhoods, I hear people say, we love our neighborhood, we love our neighbors. We, the town, the chamber, should continue to encourage neighborhood events. One such program where neighbors get to know neighbors is Neighborhood Watch. It also helps to address another stated need of the community, crime prevention. In my neighborhood, we began with 10 neighbors concerned about wildfire. We now have 65 neighbors regularly meeting to discuss wildfire security and just enjoy each other's company. I went from knowing 20 people by name in my neighborhood to knowing 130 people by name. So we need to encourage our entire community to get to know their neighbors. And by doing so, we will certainly improve our reputation for being a welcoming community.
Thank you. Next up is Ms. Badami.
As a council member, I supported diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts as a strategic priority and as an element in our 2040 general plan. To improve our reputation and image, The JEDI element in our 2040 general plan contains 16 implementation programs going forward. We've addressed disruptive behavior as a town, but cannot solve mindsets, attitudes, and personal philosophies. We have pressing issues that with focus are attainable: budget shortfalls, housing mandates, public safety. Los Gatos has a great reputation and image. One reason for a shortage of housing. Why? Because people want to live here and stay here because they feel welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Badami. Mr. Moore?
Yes, I absolutely believe we need to improve this area. In other forums, I've heard some of the candidates say that they have not heard any complaints from residents about inclusivity in Los Gatos. This is really surprising to me because I have heard from numerous Asian, Black, and Latino residents I've spoken to while out in the community that they do not feel welcome in Los Gatos. We've seen multiple incidents of hate in our town, including attacks on former Mayor Mariko Sayak and swastikas graffitied at Los Gatos High School. This is not to mention the dozens of hateful flyers that were posted in downtown attacking me for my support of the LGBTQ+ community and our Black and brown neighbors. This question about reputation is a difficult one because there isn't some policy we could pass to make our town more diverse and inclusive overnight. Changing the way Los Gatos is seen and felt requires a social shift of folks in town making an active effort to support the diversity of residents in our town. We need to actually become more welcoming in order to improve our reputation and image. I believe that we began to do this with the Los Gatos United Against Hate March. I took a leading role in organizing that event and spoke to the crowd of thousands that day to call for civility and kindness. Following that impactful day, several non-white residents in town approached me at one of the promenades and told me how much better they felt about living in Los Gatos after the march and what I had said there. We need to do more to make sure our underrepresented members of our community feel that same way. One tangible step I believe the town can take to become a more welcoming community is to empower and invest in the community groups that are already doing the work. This includes groups like OWL, Los Gatos Anti-Racism Coalition, the JCC, NUMU, local churches, synagogues, mosques, all of those incredible groups. The town should also continue to build partnerships with the chamber for campaigns like Listen, Learn, Change, Grow. I fundamentally believe we can improve our reputation and be seen as a truly welcoming and inclusive community if we have the leaders that are willing to step up, talk about this, and stand up for the people in our community that need it.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Rennie?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd have to agree with Mr. Moore. I have, knocking on doors, had people tell me that, that non-white people, that they didn't feel welcome in town. Even just recently, last week, I was surprised. Somebody stopped me on the street because I knew who I was to tell me that they felt like, whenever they went to this certain sweet shop on University, that they were discriminated against also. So I know that people aren't feeling welcomed. Not Los Gatos not feeling welcoming to them. We also have a certain number of people in town that are actively trying to make it not welcoming. And as long as they're here, I don't know how we're going to completely solve the problem of making it welcoming. I think we need to keep the effort going, of course. We need to support victims of these hate. We need to do things to make people feel welcome in town. I think the town needs to continue to do events when needed, such as the Unite Against Hate, partnering with the JCC, partnering with the Anti-Racism Coalition, partnering with the school districts. Even NUMU is starting to do some things. There's many things that we need to continue to do to make it feel welcoming, but I think this is going to be a continuous, ongoing battle, unfortunately. But we need to persist, because even though we may never change these few people, we need to make sure that other people don't think that this type of behavior is acceptable. So that's why we need to continue the types of event and the education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. And lastly, your thoughts, Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you. It's such an important question, and I'm happy to give my thoughts on it. The reality is that in the 2020 census, 25% of the residents of Los Gatos are from a foreign country, and another language is spoken in their home, except English is not spoken in their home. I had a recent experience last week where I was an ABC reader at Dave's Avenue School, and I read a book about a little boy who had 2 last names coming here from another country. At the end of reading the book, I shared my story of helping a grandmother who did not speak English go to the grocery store, etc. And I asked the children in the class if any of them spoke another language. More than half of the students raised their hand and started to tell me stories about the dad from Egypt. The little boy, 10 years old, was helping his dad write emails to make sure the English was proper. So diversity is here. We need to embrace it. I have some ideas on how we could do that with the cooperation of the chamber. I'd like to see a cultural week, celebrate your heritage week. I'd like to see an international food festival come to downtown Los Gatos. Our promenades were so successful. I could see the same thing happening with an international food festival. The last thing I'd like to say is giving oxygen to the slight minority in the town who have issued hate-filled flyers, etc., is not the way to go. I'd like to give the oxygen to our schools and our organizations that promote diversity. So I'd like to see us work together as a town, and yes, and to acknowledge and accept the fact that we are a highly diverse town, and we need to celebrate that diversity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. That was lengthy, and we really appreciate your detailed answers, putting the time in to provide all of those thoughtful responses, and keeping things on point, and making a good use of the limited time we have with this many candidates this year. So next, I'm going to turn it over. You're probably tired of listening to me. So Brian Bernasconi is going to take the helm here, and we'll go through the lightning round of questions, which hopefully will be a little more entertaining for all of us. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, we're hoping, hi, everybody, it's Brian Bernasconi, and I just want to point out that I am in fact not Catherine Summers for anybody who's watching and may be confused by my name there. I want everybody to take a nice deep breath. You guys did amazing. Honestly, everybody did just great. Yeah, seriously, take a deep breath. At the chamber board, we decided that it would be good. Yeah, Rob, you want to loosen maybe your tie just a little bit there? We decided it might be helpful to get to know you guys as people. We've heard your answers. This is a political race. You are candidates for the council, and we just thought it might be nice to try and learn a little more about you, but we don't have a ton of time, and I know people have other things to do besides just sit here and watch the screen. So we decided to go with this lightning round of questions. We are not keeping score. You're not going to win. So we just want to ask you some questions, some of them serious, some of them fun. We've decided to start with a couple of current event questions, and then we're just going to get into some random questions about you and about your lifestyle, and maybe gain some insight into the people that you are, in addition to the candidates that you are. I shuffled the papers up, and Ms. Smith, you were at the top. So if you do not object vehemently, I am going to begin with you. Is that okay?
That's great.
Again, you can't really go wrong. If you're not happy with the question, you can skip it, but you can't skip them all. And you can just pass, or you can make something up, or you can have fun with this. That's okay. You with me?
I'm with you.
We're not going to go past 2 minutes. So I think I have a 2-minute timer coming. Is that right?
Yes, you do.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Smith. Like I said, we're going to start with a couple of current events questions. The American rapper Coolio, best known for his 1995 hit Gangsta's Blank, died at the age of 59. You would fill in the blank.
And no, I can't fill in the blank. Skip.
The song was Gangsta's Paradise, 1995. The NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden was granted citizenship in the country of
Russia.
Russia. Bing, you get a point for that, except we're not keeping points. What is one of your most notable lifetime achievements, but not politics, please?
Yes, certainly. I began law school. I began college and law school in my 30s and managed to complete both within a 10-year period of time. I went to school year round. I was raising 2 young children by myself, and I worked full-time, and so I was very busy, but I do consider it one of my lifetime achievements, and
Yeah.
I was very appreciative of all the people that helped me along the way.
Excellent answer. What book is at your bedside table right now?
Actually, I am reading the book by Judge Cordell and her time on the bench in Santa Clara.
Ah, and what TV show are you watching right now?
I don't have much time to watch TV,
You don't watch
but
TV?
but when I do, I enjoy both the House Hundred shows, and I enjoy many of the cooking shows, or a number of the cooking shows.
Okay. Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is.
A wonderful performer.
Okay. What's your favorite local park?
Gosh, that is such a toss-up. I would say Oak Meadow because I'm there almost daily, but
Okay,
honestly.
we're moving on.
Okay.
What's your go-to pastime?
Being with my grandchildren.
Got it. Okay, that was your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rob Stump, you able to manage going second? You're on mute, so I'm not going to be able. Oh, have you unmuted? You have.
Not anymore.
Okay, I got a couple of current event topics first, and then some other questions. And some of these might be repeats because I felt they were
Beautiful.
they were worth asking twice. Ready for the timer here? Here we go. The NFL announced that female pop star blank will be performing during this year's Super Bowl halftime show.
Oh, boy. Beyonce.
Rihanna. The island nation of blank recently voted to legalize same-sex marriage.
You said the island nation?
The island nation
Let's
of
go with Bali.
Cuba. If, Mr. Stump, you were to meet someone from history, living or dead, who would it be?
Boy, it would be Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, great. What is one of your most notable lifetime achievements? Not political, please.
No problem. I would say effectively funding and running an orphanage in Romania for HIV positive children.
Wow. Are you phone call or text message?
Wow, I'm old school. Phone call.
Phone call. Who's your favorite Disney character?
Wow. Let's go with Goofy.
Oh, Goofy. Wow, you're going old school.
I am.
What is your favorite Los Gatos restaurant and why?
Wow. Boy, I'm gonna have to pass on that one. I don't want to make anybody mad, right?
You could make somebody very happy.
Yeah, boy, that's a tough one.
That's okay, we'll pass. If
Okay,
you could design a street pole banner for Los Gatos, what would your message be?
a street banner for Los
A
Gatos.
street pole banner.
I'm sorry. So
A street pole banner, what would your message be if you were able to
Street
put
pole
banners
banner.
up?
I'll just say love for Los Gatos.
Oh, are you sand or snow?
Wow, sand. I got to go with, even though I'm both.
And what is the book that you are reading right now?
Wow, I don't have a great excuse. Margaret said it right away, and yours truly. I don't have one on my nightstand currently.
Not currently reading any books. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Stump. You guys did beautifully. Okay, next up is Ms. Badami. Ms. Badami, are you ready for your lightning round?
I have no choice.
I hope that you're having a little bit of fun with this.
Make it fun, please.
In Indonesia, 125 people were killed in a stampede that took place at a blank game.
Soccer game?
It was a soccer game. Sachin Littlefeather, the Native American activist who rejected an Oscar on behalf of actor Marlon Blanc, died at age 75.
Brando?
Yes. I would like to know, what activity do you enjoy that Los Gatos is missing?
Boy, that's a tough one. I think Los Gatos has it all. For me, it
Good
does.
answer. If you were going to write a book, what would it be about?
Being a council member and how much I enjoy the Chamber of Commerce.
Great. What is your go-to pastime?
Spending time with my grandchildren.
Also with your grandchildren. If you, well, let's ask you this. What book is beside your bedside table now?
The Midnight Library.
The Midnight Library. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite word in another language?
Yes, it's consists of 4 letters that I cannot pronounce tonight.
But it's in a different language and it's a 4-letter word?
What language are we speaking? I would say, oh,
We can pass.
let's pass.
One subject that you would like to learn more about?
I would say learning another language.
You'd like to learn another language?
Yes.
What is your favorite restaurant in Los Gatos and why?
Well, I'm going to make some enemies here, but I would have to say Steamers, and only because my family has been in Los Gatos for several years. My parents are deceased, but that was their go-to restaurant that they brought us as a family to. So it always resonates family memories for me.
Excellent. I appreciate it, Ms. Badami. Thank you very much. These questions seeming okay so far? You guys are okay with this? Are you getting nervous, Mr. Rennie and Mr. Moore? Are you? Mr. Rennie, you're up next. Do you want to unmute for me, please?
Yeah, I'm very nervous now.
All right, we'll get the timer started. The Hurricane Ian recently made landfall near the city of Fort Blank, Florida.
Fort Lauderdale?
Fort Myers.
Fort Myers, that's right.
An injury suffered by Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback for the Miami Blanks, recently led to criticism of the NFL's concussion protocols. Quarterback for the Miami Blanks. Dolphins. Tell me one thing, Mr. Rennie, that's on your bucket list, other than politics, please.
Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
You want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. If you would you rather come face to face with a miniature hippopotamus or a giant cockroach, both of whom are in a bad mood?
Ooh, I better go with the cockroach.
What was your nickname growing up?
In college, it became Boo Boo because it's a funny story. With my baseball team, we got separated when we were on a trip, and I was yelling, "Hey, you guys!" Kind of like Yogi did, and hey, Boo Boo.
Good one. Good. What's the lamest dessert that people try and pass off as a real dessert?
Oh,
We can pass.
pass. I'll pass on that one.
What do you think is the key to living a good life?
Lots of exercise, sleep, keeping the stress down, and eating healthy.
And what subject would you like to learn more about?
I have been trying to learn Italian, so I would go with success there. I've tried to learn French in the past and not been very successful. So I'm hoping to get over the hump on that one.
Good luck to you, Mr. Rennie. Thank you very much. Mr. Moore, I would like to just mention that I omitted a piece of information when I introduced you before, and I apologize, but Mr. Moore was on the chamber board from August of 2021 through April of 2022, was on the Chamber of Commerce board, and stepped down in order to begin your campaign for council. I was supposed to have mentioned that during introductions, and I omitted it, but not on purpose. Are you ready, Mr. Moore?
I am.
Officials in the US and Europe believe Russia is responsible for sabotaging 2 gas blanks in the Baltic Sea.
Oh, power plants? I don't know.
2 gas pipelines.
Pipelines.
9 nations recently expressed support for Ukraine's bid to join blank.
The European Union.
NATO. Mr. Moore, is your bed made right now?
It is maybe half the time. I bet it's not right now because I'm doing this.
Okay. What is one of your most notable lifetime achievements? Again, not political, please.
Yeah, I would probably say I ran a homeless shelter, a large homeless shelter at the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds throughout the course of the pandemic, and that was challenging and rewarding.
Great. Do you like Valentine's Day?
Yeah, it's a blast.
What TV show are you watching right now?
Survivor. I just missed the end of it, so I don't know who gets voted out if anyone.
Survivor, like episode 43? I mean,
It's Survivor, yeah,
43?
season, I think it actually is, yeah, Brian, I think you're right. It's season 44, maybe season 42,
Wow.
43. Yeah.
Are you somebody who prefers sand or snow?
Sand.
If you could meet somebody from history, living or dead, who would it be?
Good question. I would really like to talk with Barack Obama.
Okay. If you're going to go for a late night drink, are you going to the Black Watch or to Carrie Nations?
Black Watch, and don't make eye contact with me if I'm there.
What was your nickname growing up?
Robbie.
Robbie. What did you think about the music programs in Los Gatos this summer?
Oh, they're great. So much fun. Such a blast. Got to do it again.
What did you prefer, jazz, music in the park, or the Thursday promenade?
So Thursday promenades were an absolute blast, but I really like jazz music if I had to pick like the music I like best.
Great. Hey, you guys, we appreciate you having fun with us. Thank you so much. I hope that added a little bit of extra color for the people who are watching. That is all for the lightning round. You all did amazing. And I think that you've been just wonderful here on the forum tonight. Jim, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Okay, great job, all of you, like Brian said, and great job, Brian. You're the lightning round game show host of town. Maybe we should just start a recurring Zoom with this. Okay, so now we're going to get into the closing statements. Quickly, everybody has a minute. I think I mentioned earlier, we're going to go into reverse alphabetical order. So we're going to start with Mr. Stump for his closing. And I think there's a 1 minute timer coming, so we'll watch for that to pop up. And
Here we go. The key issues that I'm really looking at addressing in my campaign are around public safety, planning for growth, financial stewardship, the Los Gatos economy, and senior services. So from that, what is my vision for Los Gatos, maybe 4 to 8 years out, that we're a safer place for our families to live? The threat of wildfire will be mitigated. Housing will be developed that will allow police officers, firefighters, teachers, others to live here in Los Gatos. The town will have the resources to provide services and address infrastructure projects that are vital to the community. Our business community will return to its pre-COVID vitality. Los Gatos will be a place where businesses thrive. And last but not least, our seniors will have led the way in development of a new community center that will be a place for intergenerational activities and gatherings.
thank you. Thank you. I think our timer came on a little bit late there, so that's okay. We'll get it up again. And Ms. Smith, you're next up.
Yes, thank you very much. I am prepared and I'm qualified to be a town council member. I have a proven track record of almost 30 years of commitment to Los Gatos, to the betterment of Los Gatos. Of course, I was the owner of a major downtown business. I understand financial statements. I understand complex financial issues. At one point, I had 4 locations and I had over 35,000 square feet of commercial space under lease. So I understand the business challenges that are facing the town of Los Gatos. In addition to that, I have been a town volunteer in many capacities. I chaired the Planning Commission during a very complex land use issue that we had. I also have been a town volunteer on almost a dozen town commissions and committees. I understand the town. I understand municipal government. I understand nonprofits. I understand the business community. And for all of those, I am more qualified, I would say, in terms of the breadth of my experience than any other candidate that is running for office. And for all those reasons, as I said, I am prepared and qualified to be a town council member. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Rennie.
I would disagree. I would say I'm more experienced. So again, I would emphasize, if reelected, I will be the only council member that has more than 2 years of experience. I've been on council 8 years, mayor twice now. And I can tell you it takes 3 to 4 years before a council member really gets going and is completely efficient and has a broader view of the town. When people come to town, when you come to the council, you come with sort of your slice and you have to learn the whole slice. So We also had a lot of turnover in many of our directors in town, so institutional knowledge is going to be important. I have broad connections across the county and served on many boards and commissions across the county, which helps bring resources to town, but also helps me make decisions with a broader perspective. And, I have good relationships with our state legislators, our supervisors, and many of the other council members in the other cities. So all of that helps me solve problems here in Los Gatos.
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. Mr. Moore.
As this is the last major forum in this race, I'd like to offer some reflections on what I've learned over the course of this race and from personally knocking on over 5,000 doors throughout our lovely town. When I talk with someone at their home, I usually ask them some version of the question, are there any big concerns for you in your neighborhood or any major issues you're worried about in Los Gatos? Most of what I hear is likely what you'd suspect. Traffic, followed by things like the North 40, which people don't really like, local businesses and downtown vitality, which people really like, and safer streets and public safety. My favorite answer, though, and one that I get more often than you might suspect, is no. There are a lot of folks who cannot come up with a major issue they are concerned about in our town. To me, that is the most beautiful thing we can ask for as a community. If elected, my commitment to voters in Los Gatos is to get more people to that answer of no, and to help residents feel truly content in the town they call home. All residents of Los Gatos get to cast 3 votes in this race, so I urge everyone watching tonight to pick the candidates they believe will bring the best mix of perspectives and ideas to the town council. Thank you all for your time this evening, and vote Rob Moore if you want more for Los Gatos. You can find more info about me at robforlosgatos.com.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. And finally, we'll end with Ms. Badami.
Thank you. So I'm going to respectfully disagree with Ms. Smith and Mr. Rennie. I'm actually more experienced and I have Mr. Rennie beat. I actually have 9 years of experience, 7 on the Planning Commission and 2 on the council. So I have 9 years of a track record of decision-making for the town of Los Gatos, a proven leader. I was elected to town council in 2020 with endorsements from 6 former Los Gatos mayors. With my accomplishments in the last 2 years, I've added former mayor and county supervisor Mike Wasserman to the group. I have consistently voted to preserve our town character and have kept my promises, earning their continued endorsements. I voted against the elimination of our single-family residential zones and against housing numbers that exceed the mandates imposed by the state on our town. Other candidates support upzoning 750 acres of land and even 2,500 acres. These are facts and are a matter of public record. We make important decisions regarding future growth and character of our town. These are challenging issues and experience matters.
Thank you, Ms. Badami. Well, I'm going to say that I don't think any of you are going to make it easy on anybody to decide, because it's just been a lot of well thought out answers tonight and a lot of information and a little bit of fun and getting to know some of you a little more personally for a lot of people that haven't had the chance to meet you yet. Hopefully this recorded Zoom gets out to a lot more of the residents, because I think it's just a really quality event that is new to the chamber. And with that, I'm going to kind of segue and do a couple of thank yous and then some housekeeping. But, first of all, thank you all again. We've thanked you several times. It's a lot of time. We're just about 90 minutes, and that's a lot of time for everybody running their campaigns. So we really appreciate that. I wanted to thank the public for the questions they submitted. A lot of them were integrated into questions that were developed by our group and other stakeholders. I'd like to thank the public for taking the time to watch. I'd like to thank the Chamber Board for their time putting this together and informing some of the questions, and certainly want to thank the Chamber staff. Our Chamber staff is better than it's ever been under Catherine Summers' leadership and her staff of Kathy and Randy and Donna, who worked really particularly hard on putting this together. They did a fantastic job. The Chamber's never been more involved than it has now. I've kind of been involved peripherally for a long time, and in the last few years it's just gotten stronger and stronger, and we're able to do things like this that I think are meaningful for our membership and for the community at large. So I'm really proud of where it's headed, and I think that I'm hearing a lot from you as candidates as well, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for everybody to work together no matter what happens in the election. So I'm looking forward to all of that. I think we're going to put up some more information. There's some information down there in the lower left-hand corner where we have resources and valuable information regarding voter registration, polling places, voting timelines, state and local prop measures, descriptions, and positions. And so there are a lot of resources for everybody out there with the upcoming elections in November. And with that, I think we're going to end the forum, and everybody have a pleasant rest of your evening.
Thank you all.